What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some more PGA DFS picks and lineup advice for DraftKings and FanDuel, this time for the Truist Championship in Philadelphia. Welcome. I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, and I'm joined by Niromada, our PGA analyst at OccupyFantasy.com. Niro, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. We've got a major on deck next week. Looking to rebound off whatever that was last week at the CJ Cup. So I'm excited to get back to it.
Absolutely, me too. And like you said, the PGA Championship is next week, which means there are plenty of satellites in the lobbies. Make sure you go get those satellites in for this week and try to win some millionaire tickets for next week, especially on DraftKings. In this video, if you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. What we'll do is we will briefly discuss last week if there's anything we can learn from the CJ Cup to apply to our PGA DFS lineups moving forward. We'll look at the top plays in our Occupy model. What is the data telling us who we should play this week at the Truist Championship? What are industry projections saying? Who will be higher owned in high stakes and smaller field GPPs compared to the large field GPPs that projected ownership relies on? Are betting markets telling us anything this early in the week as we record here on Tuesday afternoon? And we'll close out the show as we always do with some showdown and weather related notes. So, near the CJ Cup, aka the Scotty Scheffler Cup last week, 32 under par. In this very video last week, we recorded on Tuesday last week as well. And you said, as of now, my projected exposure on Scheffler will be under the field. Now, you could go full tout and just say, I didn't do that. I went 100% Scotty Scheffler and I cleaned up. But you're a man of honesty. What'd you do, Nero, with Scotty last week?
Yeah, you asked me earlier. You said, you always say your opinion is subject to change, and my response was my opinion last week was subject to the evisceration of my bankroll, is what that was subject to.
Yes.
Yeah, I stayed with under the field on Scotty. I was about half. I think I was around 20% or a little bit under in my total exposures. Was roughly what I said. I played him in cash and low risk, but in smaller contests, high risk, I generally faded him outside of maybe one or two. And then for the large field, I capped my runs at 20%. And I think my initial runs without any cappings was giving me like 65% Scheffler or something like that. So that made me feel extra stupid about Saturday. And like you and I have talked about before, my bankroll and my golf performance got a lot better once stopped trying to find ways to like beat Scotty Scheffler. And I was just reminded of that. I think the thing is like it's okay. You make calls and you're wrong sometimes, and you just need to live with that. Like taking strong stands is usually a way to be successful in DFS if you can have, good projections or good opinions like backing that up or historical track record of doing so. But it is tough when it's those real outlier types of players because Scotty had 177 DraftKings points, which is absolutely insane, first of all. But second of all, the thing was like that was almost double of what guys that were like in 15th or 20th place
Yeah.
had. So having Scheffler not only was, 40% of the field, you're under the field, you're already behind the eight ball, but he literally almost scored twice as many points as other players. So he was like having a total extra player on your roster. So my not all my non-Scotty rosters were grouped in this real tiny group of circles at the very back end of all these GPPs that I was in. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and he scored double the amount of guys, double the amount of points of guys in 15th and 20th place, and like 8 times the amount of points of the other high-priced golfers last week. Those guys didn't even show up, and so it was like you had to have Scotty no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Speed showed up only because he shot 62 or whatever he shot on Sunday,
Mm, yeah.
and that was it. Otherwise, all the rest of the guys like above 9K were just like nowhere to be seen. So not only was it like a perfect week for Scotty, like the all the rest of the 7K randos and 6K randos that you would use to fill out your Scotty lineups were all the guys in the top 10 and the top 15. So it was just like a double whammy.
Well, at least it all happened on one week. And I will say, Nero, we got the
Yes.
cover boy of the video right last week, the Buddy Marcus with Eric Cole. He finished pretty well,
Yes.
and you
He
called
did.
out him in low scoring events. So, it's not like we got everything wrong last week. So, all right, let's move
That
on
is
now.
that's correct. I'll take that one piece of confidence and roll it forward to this week.
And that's what we'll do here at the Truist Championship. So, formerly the Wells Fargo, this is now being played in Philadelphia this year because of PGA Championship next week is at Quail Hollow, where this is normally played. Nero, we don't really play at this course ever, and so we're taking a bit of guesswork when it comes to modeling out this event, especially for the occupied model, which is all data driven. So you and I have talked about what is important at this course, but for our viewers, and they haven't looked at the model yet, they haven't read anything about this course, anything in particular that they can take away when they're doing their own research to see which guys they may want to put in their lineups this week.
Yeah, it's so we're at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. One of the courses there, I believe the I'm not even gonna say it. Just we're in the East Coast. It's old school architecture. That's really all that you need to know. So it's a AW Tillinghast design, like very old school East Coast designer. Shorter course, should be a little over 7,100 yards, par 70, I believe. Pretty wide fairways for how short the course is, and but it's all about it's and again old school in this way. It's all about angles, like being on the left side of the fairway when you're supposed to be on the right side of the fairway is going to be like a real problem because you're going to have a whole bunch of bad angles into slopes that are working against you and that kind of thing on the greens. So, uh, we played a course similar, maybe in Harbortown, but the trees at Harbortown are the things that create all the angles. Don't think there's hardly any trees at this course. Like the course, the terrain creates the angles, and the way the greens are sitting creates the angles in the places where you need to play from. So, wild driving is not going to result in penalty shots, but it will result in like very tough approach shots to the green. So, I think you're looking for guys who are very good short iron players, great wedge players, like that kind of thing. I expect those players to do quite well this week.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we have for the occupied model as well. We've also looked at how guys perform on shorter courses because while not all shorter courses are built the same, Nero, I think it kind of plays into what you were talking about that on these shorter courses, oftentimes it is about the angle into the green. And the story of driving accuracy or driving distance or total driving may not tell the full story there. Whereas you look at how guys have performed historically on shorter courses, that may be a little more predictive into how they could play a course like this course here this week.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said though at the beginning, like it is a little bit of guesswork. I think we had a senior PGA championship here a number of years ago that Bernhard Langer won. So you could take maybe a very small clue from that. But again, what is Langer? Very precise iron player, right? Like just a very precise player with how he plays. So when we come to these new places, I'm of the opinion that I'd rather just make some educated guesses on what I expect to be rewarded at the course, feed that into the model, and then play what it says. Yes, I've got my own stuff too, but I'd rather just do that rather than try to be too general.
Exactly. So if we look at what our model is telling us this week after putting all of these inputs in, it's not Rory at the top. And he ranks fourth in our model this week. And before I even get to the top three guys, my question to you, Nero, is as we discuss Rory this week, do fits even matter anymore for him? Because you look at some of his wins so far here in 2025, you wouldn't say they quote unquote fit Rory McIlroy's game, but he's playing so damn well that it doesn't matter what kind of course it is.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys like that. Scheffler obviously comes to mind, who are kind of golf course agnostic. They can win at any type of course, and there's not necessarily a one course that fits them so much more than another, just because they have a lot of different strengths. I mean, Rory, we typically would love to play at like softer, longer golf courses so he could really take advantage of his driving. I mean, he's improved his wedge play so much over the last 6 to 9 months that like I just don't know that you can do that anymore. So, yeah, he might be entering into that rarefied air where you don't really worry about the course fit too much. And, if you weren't going to play him, you just play him because he's going to play pretty well no matter what the course is.
Exactly. If you look at the three guys above him in our model this week, they are much better quote unquote fits. When you look at, like you said, a lot of wedges this week since the shorter course. It's Russell Henley, Sepp Straka, and Daniel Berger, all of varying prices here this week. But Nero, one thing in common, all three of these guys are top five, top six in the field in approach shots under 150 yards, which we should have a lot of this week.
Yeah, you should have a ton of those this week. Also, Henley, Straka, Berger have been playing very well this year. So you've got You've got excellent short game or shorter club, we'll say, proponents. Plus, they're playing well this year, so strong plays at the top. I think one difference is they're all Southeast guys, and we're playing in the Northeast. But that's not too big of a thing for me. I think they're all three of them are really good fits. And then when I look below the list too, the next one underneath Rory is Lucas Glover, and again another like inside that top five, top 10 with those shots under 150 yards. Good ball striker, and good scoring metrics as well. And you're definitely going to need to make some birdies this week.
Yeah, and again, there's going to be these. Apparently, these greens are pretty tough. From everything
Yes.
that I've read, they're going to be fast. So there should be some variance in the putting. So we should be fine taking shots on guys who typically aren't great putters, but can give themselves enough shots with their wedges. And all these guys fit that bill. And then number six in our model, excuse me, is the number one player on short courses this year. It's actually Justin Thomas. And Nero, that should be no surprise since he won at Harbour Town just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but just you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, just a perfect example of that. And again, what is Justin Thomas? What are the biggest strengths of his game? Amazing wedge player and a great and imaginative short game. Usually on these shorter courses that have a lot of slope and speed on the greens, it pays to be like a creative shot maker. And I think that's part of the reason, Jordan shot 62 last Sunday, but he's the epitome of that. He's kind of got a low price, and I think that's why you're seeing a ton of early projected ownership for Spieth, because that type of profile should fit this type of course really well.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And if you look at the guys rounding out the top 10 in our model, it's guys that have been much better than guys who have longer form, higher ceilings, but have just been so hot. Here, for most of 2025, it's Michael Kim and Andrew Novak, especially, and then Ryan Gerard closing it out as well. So, Nero, what do you think about those guys, their fits this week? We haven't seen Michael Kim since the Masters, but Novak we saw win the team event over at the Zurich.
Yeah, and right before that, lost the playoff to Justin Thomas
Yep.
at the Heritage. Now I'm mad at Ryan Gerard because he killed me last week, but I'll get over that. He's been playing pretty good. He's near the top of the putting metrics for the faster greens. And Kim and Novak and good wedge players, good ball strikers, good form this year. Kim's interesting because again he played so many weeks in a row leading up to the Masters, and now he's taken like a longer break. So definitely a little bit of added variance there. Kind of unsure how he's going to come back from the break. He should be energized and hopefully ready to go. But maybe he's a little extra rusty. I'm not sure. Either way, there's just a little bit of extra variance with Michael Kim that you wouldn't otherwise have this week. But yeah, I think the model did actually, for having a new course and making some guesses, I think the model did a very good job of identifying, a number of really strong plays for the week.
We'll pass that feedback along to the model. It will certainly appreciate it. So thank you for that, Nero. Now let's move on and let's look at what industry projections are telling us, because we do this exercise every single week where we compare what a very specific set of industry projections are telling us. Again, these are not our projections; these are industry PGA DFS projections, and there's a certain set that tends to lead itself to more ownership in high stakes GPPs and smaller field GPPs where pros can play. So you'll look at our projected ownership in our model, and then you'll look at these guys and you'll be like, damn, these guys are so much higher owned in my smaller contest. And it's that way every single week. And as we say, if you've been a recurring viewer, that if you don't have access to these projections or our projections or any projections, which is totally fine, a lot of times you can just play these guys, and especially if you're in under $3 contest, no pros are in it, you can load your lineup with these types of guys as well, because generally they are great plays. And Nero, if we look at it this week between DraftKings and FanDuel, who are the guys we expect to be higher owned than where they will be in the large field GPPs?
Yeah, so I've got a good list that's crossover on both sites. So on both sites, both DraftKings and FanDuel, Rory, Colin Morikawa, Jacob Bridgman, Aaron Rai, and Davis Thompson. So on DK, I'd add Taylor Pendrith to that list.
Yep.
And then on FanDuel, take away Pendrith, keep Rory, Colin, Bridgman, Rai, Davis Thompson, and add Andrew Novak and Siwoo Kim.
Interesting. So, any thread you're seeing among these guys, or any common characteristics? I know we see some good ball striking metrics from a couple of these guys, and obviously a couple were in the top of the model as well.
Yeah, definitely. You've definitely got some ball striking stuff in there, and also you just have, especially Davis Thompson and Siwoo Kim a little bit too. You've just got some abridgment a little bit. You got some bad pricing relative to their odds to win in the betting markets currently, and that, as we both know, drives quite a bit of sharp ownership when you're just simple comparisons around looking at where somebody's betting odds are compared to where their prices are on the various sites, and you've got a couple of mismatches there in that group of players. That's driving some of this early projection for the sharper ownership
And that's
increase.
And that's a great transition to our next segment of what the early market moves are telling us and the betting odds, what they're telling us as of Tuesday afternoon. We don't have any trifecta plays where a golfer's odds to win have improved to every sports book just yet. Last week, we only had three guys on that list. Maybe everyone just knew that Scotty was going to win, and that's why no one really moved in the betting markets. But we look at this week, we have three guys who have moved at multiple sports books. They're not on the trifecta list just yet, but they might be by Wednesday afternoon. But before I give you those three names, Nero, before you tell our viewers those three names, I want to give, honestly, me and you a reminder, but also our viewers out there that on this show for the Masters, we talked about Matt Fitzpatrick being a trifecta play, and that coming out of absolutely nowhere since he has been horrific to start this year and honestly for the past few months. Made the cut at the Masters and looked pretty good doing it. And you and I have talked about, let's not just one and done play these out of nowhere trifecta plays. Let's continue to see where this goes and keep playing them. So Fitzpatrick, not a trifecta play this week yet. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't be. Doesn't rank highly in the model, but he's a guy that we should have pinned based on previous trifecta plays and maybe something in his game behind the scenes that we should take note of.
Yeah, I mean, we had Hovland is probably the best example that we've had of this recently. But I think the important thing for everyone to remember is golf is a game that is full of variance. The game itself. I'm not even talking about playing DFS golf. Now you add in the DFS variance on top of it, so you've got tons and tons of variance inherent in this. So you could have had, let's say, now Fitzpatrick did make some changes, right? Got rid of his longtime caddy and made some other changes like in his inner circle. So maybe you've got someone who's got some connections in there that knows that this is paying off and knows that he's hitting the ball and playing a lot better than he had been previously. Okay, fine. So, start playing him, but there's no guarantee that he's at the first event out that he's going to put it all together and just go back to the way that he used to be. That still often takes a couple weeks, could be a couple missteps in there, could be a couple miscuts in there. But I think the end goal would be when you see this steam out of nowhere, you want to keep playing it until you've had at least two or three instances, let's say, where the player has missed the cut, let you down, played poorly, and you can write it off. But otherwise, like because there's so much variance inherent in all this stuff, it pays to keep playing them. And honestly, it's in your favor if they don't actually pop right away that first or second week because they're going to have lower ownership those future weeks, and you can really make it pay off.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. So good work there, Nero. And just a reminder for everyone: if you're playing multiple lineups this week, let's keep Matt Fitzpatrick in the player pool just to see if we can capitalize on some of that trifecta-ness from a couple of weeks ago. Now, Nero, moving on to this week, who are the three guys that have gotten moves at multiple sports books that we should monitor to see if they end up on the actual trifecta list by Wednesday evening?
Yeah, three guys: Eric Van Rooyen, Justin Rose, and Wyndham Clark. Um, Again, yeah, Rose and Van Rooyen, pretty good form recently. Again, recent future now. Van Rooyen, a very recent future. Second place last week. I mean, imagine shooting the scores that he shot last week and finishing second by like 8 shots. Like it just would be that would be crushing. But he should, he's a confidence player and a player that tends to play well in streaks when he plays well. And you could say that for how well he played last week, it was very abnormal in that he knew he never really had a chance to win.
Yeah.
So he didn't like go through all the stress and all the emotional ringer of what that type of performance would usually take out of a player. So yeah, he's definitely interesting to me this week, and someone I kind of had circled off to the side of like, because that's an interesting, different dynamic. Usually when you shoot that low the previous week, you know, my non-math wisdom would say that a lot of the reason why it's hard for those guys to back up those performances is because they give so much physically, emotionally, and everything else to try to get it done. But he knew he was always playing for second place, and so he didn't have to go through any of that. So definitely very interesting to me. Rose very good on fast greens, better on short courses. Believe his U.S. Open win was in the Northeast. Like this is he's played really well on these types of courses with these types of grasses. So that makes some sense to me. And Wyndham Clark is very good wedge player, and when he's on, he's a very very good putter, and obviously can make a lot of birdies. So he'd probably be the one I like the least of those, but those are the three that are getting moves at multiple books so far.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And EVR, Occupy favorite, long time Occupy favorite, I will say. He must be a DFS player as well because he also doesn't like signature events, despite being invited into this one after qualifying last week. So
Oh,
EVR,
love those quotes from him. Those were great.
they were, and I was like, I do. I feel the same exact way. So EVR, welcome to the club. For the final trifecta list, again, if you're not a member of OccupyFantasy.com, make sure you're in our Discord server. Wednesday evenings, I will post a final list. Nero will post an updated list Wednesday afternoons in the Daily Plug, which is just an amendment to his top plays, his lineup strategies, course breakdowns, everything you need for PGA DFS. As low as $7 per week at OccupyFantasy.com. If you like what you see in these videos, you'll love what you see on our website. So we'd love to have you if you're not a member already. And Nero will close out the show here with some showdown and weather-related notes. Weather, I didn't see too much. Maybe you saw something I didn't. But one angle that I want to get your take on here, and maybe it's something we could take advantage of a classic contest as well. But I was reading that they are planning on growing the rough out, or at least not cutting it from at some point this week through the end of the weekend. And with the rain in the forecast and the rain we've been receiving here in the Northeast as well, if the rough grows out and it gets pretty thick, do you think that we could place an emphasis on driving accuracy more so than we would at the start of the week? And I'm mostly thinking for showdown contests. If the rough becomes that thick and it's tougher to get out of and be accurate even on a shorter course, is that something we could take advantage of, or maybe an angle we could look at for showdown?
Yes, it's possible for sure. The rough was supposed to be at 3 inches this week, which is not ridiculous. I mean, it's maybe on the higher end of the average, but not crazy. But we are supposed to get some rain Thursday evening, like overnight into Friday morning and Friday afternoon. Might actually get a pretty good helping of rain. So, that could, because the course is shorter. Now, obviously, when rain comes, it makes it play longer, but a shorter course is not going to play that long. So yeah, you could get some added emphasis on accuracy this week. I would say that it's not something I plan on taking massively into account in my classic selections, but to your point, I will be watching the first round very closely to see if the course kind of gives us any tells as the guys are playing, what type of profile might be excelling. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. Take advantage of that knowledge. You could do pick six, prop scoring type of markets and that kind of stuff. But yeah, for showdown in particular, it just hopefully gives you the type of an alert on the type of profile that you really want to target for the next 3 rounds of showdown if you're playing showdown.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of Showdown because Classic, we're locked into our lineups, but we can get more information and build more lineups as the tournament goes on in Showdown. And the nice thing about it is our Occupy model takes all that into account. It looks at historically what should be predictive at this course, but then it also looks at what is actually predictive this week at this course. And round one all the way through round four models for Showdown purposes. Make sure you check that out at OccupyFantasy.com. Those are updated every evening before the next morning slate starts. And it's a great way to get extra allocation and with extra information to PGA DFS. So that'll do it for this video. So if you're watching, we gave you top 10 in our model. We gave you some early market movers. We gave you what some sharper players will be on in higher dollar contests. and some other angles as well. So lots of information here to build your lineups. And if you appreciate what you've seen, make sure you subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. It's free to do so. That lets you know whenever we post any new videos. And we got a bunch of new videos planned coming shortly, so stay tuned for that. But we'll always have this PGA DFS video every single week on Mondays or Tuesdays. So subscribing is the best way to get notified when it drops. Give us a thumbs up. That is the easiest free way to support the channel. We always appreciate that. Another free way to support the channel is just to drop a comment. Any questions you have about this event, we'll get back to you. Any predictions, any appreciations, any feedback, put it in the comments. It also helps us out within the YouTube algorithm. So for Nero, I'm Brian. Thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you watching as we always do. And good luck this week at the Truist Championship.